Hello, welcome to the Matchbook Racing Review. I was going to say racing podcast there, but that's at the end of the week. This is the start of the week with Donn McLean and I looking back at what was a quite fantastic 3 days of the Moët Chandon July Festival at Newmarket, as we expected it might be, and there was a lot more besides for us to get our teeth stuck into as well. Donn, it was Aidan O'Brien coming out on top again with a horse that he campaigned as a Guineas horse and then dropped back. This is how it works now. It's as simple as that. Let's see if they'll stay the Guineas trip. If not, we've always got the July Cup.
Yeah, we should have known. It was all there. Stravinsky and Mozart and US Navy flag last year. Yeah, it's mad what he can do with horses, because there has to, as we've discussed before, Tom, that there must be a different training methodology behind getting a horse to stay a mile versus buzzing him up and getting him to have the speed and to be fast over 6. And yeah, Stan Harmon's tried it. He nearly got the trip in the Guineas. He led his group until deep inside the final furlong. Then I suppose in the Commonwealth Cup he was a bit disappointing. I'd forgotten he was an even money favourite for the Commonwealth Cup. Like, he was a very short price for the Commonwealth Cup, and it just didn't happen. It was interesting hearing Aidan say afterwards that, or after Saturday's race, that they were bringing it, trying to get him going, and realised that he was a sprinter again. He just wasn't there mentally for Ascot, but he was there mentally for Saturday, all right, wasn't he?
Well, is it the other thing that came out from Aidan was that he'd been clocking these 11-second furlongs, and obviously that's not something, and nor should we be privy to it, but we weren't aware of that necessarily. But I suppose the clue was there with regards to the betting, wasn't it? But there was quite a marked difference from what he showed at Ascot. The horse he appeared to be there in comparison to what we saw from him a few days ago on Saturday. I think it really suited him rolling along at his own pace at that trip, but still he was clearly a different specimen on Saturday, and he just looked so much more comfortable the whole way throughout the race. There was a point actually just going into the dip where he came off the bridle a bit and then off he went again. I think that's his ideal trip, and I did just the difference from Ascot. He clearly just turned over a new leaf at home and was showing them everything they wanted.
Yeah, I think the ground was probably a factor as well. It was a bit, it wasn't very soft ground on Commonwealth Cup Day at Ascot, but it still was on the easy side, whereas at Newmarket on Saturday, I know they watered a bit, and the times seemed to suggest that the ground was slower than it had been on Friday, when every race was a track record. But no, and I exactly as you say, he didn't show blinding pace that said, Aidan said afterwards he was clocking 11-second or sub 11-second furlongs for 4 furlongs in a row, so that was where the 10 to 1 to 9 to 2 came from, probably. But yeah, what I thought the most impressive part of his race was how strong he was at the end. A horse who nearly gets a mile, he's going to be strong at the end, but he had the pace to be able to lead. And I think Ryan Moore said afterwards that they did kind of head him a little bit on the far side, didn't they? But just the strength that he showed up the hill, he was going away again at the end. He won by nearly 3 lengths, and no, it was a real performance of dominance, wasn't it?
And I think the other key point that Aidan made was that, and I'm sure he said it afterwards to Lydia on Racing TV, certainly said it somewhere, was that perhaps with Ascot they'd been trying to teach him to switch off to get a mile, and all of a sudden you come back in trip, and it's almost as if that Ascot experience brought him forward so much to be able to show his best over back at 6 furlongs. But he needed that experience almost to teach him in race conditions how to do it again, because they'd been teaching him at home really to switch off and try and get the mile, and perhaps paid the price for that at Ascot, but it put him spot on for the July Cup. Yeah,
and as he said to Lydia, he said they were all winter they were trying to get him to relax in order to give him a chance of getting a mile, and it was always the worry. He had three runs last year as a juvenile, and they were all over 6 furlongs. That's not a coincidence. He had that pace. He's won a Middle Park now at Dewhurst, so the talk always was through the winter was whether or not he'd be able to stretch out to get a mile, and of course they have to have a go. It's the Guineas. They had a go. It didn't work, and then, as we know these days, in the last 4 years, we've had the Commonwealth Cup as a race for, not like the Jersey Stakes is only a Group 3. The Commonwealth Cup is a Group 1 over 6 for 3-year-olds who didn't quite get a mile and who have that pace. But you're right to have a go, and it's interesting that it's taken another run and another couple of weeks, isn't it, to get him back to be as good over 6 furlongs now as a 3-year-old as he was over 6 furlongs last year as a 2-year-old.
Yeah, and the other thing about the Commonwealth Cup I was going to add to that is that I think when it came along, where are we, 5-6 years ago now, I think Muhara was the first horse to do it. Muhrar was campaigned as a Guineas horse. Well, he won the Greenham, but then they decided that he was going to be better back in trip. But you still campaign the horses really as Guineas horses. The hope is they will see out that trip. Advertised ran in the Guineas. Fairyland, who was third here, she was campaigned as a Guineas filly. So it doesn't necessarily change it early season. You get to May and you see if you win the Guineas, but then you have the Commonwealth Cup if you do need to come back in trip and July Cup, etc. And interesting, the first 5 home in the July Cup, they were all 3-year-olds, and I think all campaigned as Guineas horses. So I thought the Commonwealth Cup was going to change the dynamic in the off season, and horses were going to be campaigned almost either or. But it doesn't actually work like that in practice. The Guineas still has that pull, and you want to try to make them get the mile, and if they don't, you can then come back.
Yeah, and now it always was the option, but it can be done. And it's not like you campaign as a Guineas horse, you try and switch them off or whatever. Aidan O'Brien was doing, our trainers do, in order to get them to switch off to allow them get as far as they can get. But we know that now, once you've done that, it doesn't work. If it's the right type of horse, you can then have a go. And okay, it didn't work for the Commonwealth Cup, but it hasn't detracted from his ability over 6 furlongs. And as you say, a lot of the sprinters, the 3-year-old sprinters now, and I didn't realize, I knew the first 5 were 3-year-olds. I hadn't really caught that they'd all run in a Guineas.
I've just checked, and So Perfect, she ran in the Guineas trial, didn't. So they were still sort of sucking and seeing over 7 furlongs.
And Fairyland, of course, dropped back to 5 furlongs for the King's Stand, and then she was stepping up in trip for the July Cup. She ran a screamer as well. But
and for 10 Sovereign, she may well have run in the Commonwealth Cup, but they had their horse in that. I think ultimately they expected that horse. They expected 10 Sovereigns based on what he'd shown as a juvenile to take the Commonwealth Cup, but he may just have needed that to teach himself how to race over that trip. Look, Advertise ran a great race, Donn, as well, and that was more in line what we saw as juveniles. But I don't think that trap really plays to his strengths, to be honest. I think something like Ascot just suits him that bit better.
Yeah, I think that's probably right, Tom. And I think Dream of Dreams the same. Like, he's Newmarket. You can get fooled by Newmarket by the July course when you see that incline, inside the last half a furlong. It looks like a stiff 6 furlongs, but actually we know it's a speed track and you don't want to be too far back. And we saw it as well with some of the races that we're going to discuss now in a second. But yeah, I thought Advertise ran a big race. I think you can easily allow Dream of Dreams that run. That Fairyland ran a big race because she was kind of on the near side, wasn't she? And she had to do a lot of running kind of on her own in order to get as close as she got. So she ran a big race to finish 3rd. So yeah, I think there are lots of positives to be taken out of the race.
And I think Pretty Pollyanna as well. It didn't go right early on. I'm not suggesting she's going to reverse form with the winner at all. But I think she was slightly better than how the race panned out, perhaps. And I'd be hopeful she can cut it in a Group 1 over a sprint trip this season. Where next for the winner? Did Aidan confirm where he'd go? There was talk of 5, but I think they'll stay to this trip.
Yeah, there is still it's the Nunthorpe. It's there, and Stravinsky did that, didn't he? He went and won the Nunthorpe, and Mozart did too, I think, didn't he? I'll have to double check that. I think he might have.
First, yes. Second, I'm going to check it, and you can you can keep talking.
I can talk away. But yeah, you'd think that 6 is probably his trip, especially given the strength with which he finished off the race, given that he nearly gets a mile, given that last year all his runs were over 6, he didn't even start off over 5. But look, he has that pace. He's the top sprinter around at the moment now, and it's definitely worth considering. But I still think that even if he were to go and win an Nunthorpe, his best just to 6. Well, did he win it, Nunthorpe? Yeah.
Both of them, Donn. Never doubt yourself, man. Never ever doubt yourself again. Of course they did.
Of course, yeah.
Give me the ears, Donn. Come on, give me the ears. Stravinsky in.
Ooh.
This is great. We should just do a quiz.
We should just have a quiz every week.
Scrap all the review nonsense. Let's do the quiz. Stravinsky, Michael Cannan, Aidan O'Brien. What year?
Early to mid 2000s.
No, 99.
99, really?
Yeah, and Mozart was 2001. But you still got You were bang on with both of them.
99, Janie Mac. That's a long time ago.
Well, I mean, it's 20 years ago. That makes you think, doesn't it?
It makes you think. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, genuinely thinking about other quiz questions I want to ask you now. What else did we see on Saturday? The superlative stakes. How impressed were you with the winner? Another big win for King Power, Asheen Murphy on board. I thought he was good, Mystery Power. I thought he was still pretty green late on.
Yeah.
I thought he'd get another furlong. He's a no nay never, but there's still a bit of stamina on that dam side. She won over a mile and a half. But I thought moreover than anything, the trip for now is probably just about right. But I thought there's still a bit of learning to do for this horse. And given that greenness that he showed late, there might be a little bit more to come. Yeah,
no, he was impressive. And again, he was strong at the finish. It's a good weekend or a good week for Richard Hanner, and his horses are in flying form. Yeah, I did just be a bit concerned that King's Command and Year of the Tiger both underperformed. And King's Command was up there with them. He might have been a bit keen. He just faded out of Year of the Tiger. Tiggy Wiggy's son. Yeah, I thought he'd get closer than he did, and they were the two at the top of the market. That said, look, it was a good performance by Mystery Power, and he was good, and he was stepping up. I think he'd only won a maiden beforehand, hadn't he? So it was a big step up in class for him, and he proved that he was up to it.
I think when you have, it wasn't a surprise by any stretch, but it was more surprising that those two horses you mentioned didn't feature in it. I think that automatically makes you go, well, they probably underformed, and do I therefore question the form a little bit? The horse had won his maiden on good to soft ground. I think the fact they put 3 mils on was no bad thing. I mean, the time wasn't bad. It was 59.59 seconds slow, so that wasn't bad at all. And then the next 3 races all dipped under standard. But I was still pretty impressed with the horse. I think the time was in line with the times we'd seen previously in the first couple of races. And as I say, if he can iron out that little bit of greenness under pressure later on, I thought he might have won by a bit further. But I take the point. The 94 favourite King's Command just looks disappointing, and you go, well, best horse on the day won, but will the form work out like that? But
yeah, and King's Command, like Godolphin, actually, they're normally quite prolific at the July meeting, aren't they? They probably, I know they had some success, but they probably might have, especially in the juvenile department, they probably might have expected to have more success than they had. And King's Command, like it was a real battle between him and Mystery Power in the early part of the race, and Mystery Power just got the better of that. And maybe once that happened, maybe King's Command just faded out of it, and he just once he wasn't getting his own way, maybe just said, right, that's enough, and James Doyle said he'd save him for another day. So yeah, I know he finished last, but he's you give him another chance, I think.
Yeah, and we also saw in that race, and more so than any other day, although we did see it a lot, being on the speed at the July course is so important. It is very difficult. I think the winner of the first race of the July Festival won from off the pace. That was over a fair bit further. But otherwise, you really don't want to try and come from off it. It's so difficult. And I don't think we always give that track that, we think of a Chester, for example, and we know you've got to be on the speed. I'd say it's almost as important at the July course for me. It is at the Rowley Mile to an extent, but not quite like that. But you've got to be up there. Vela Kemp was. Frankie Dettori is just loving life at the moment and riding in that manner as well. He also won in a similar style on Raffle Prize, of course. Interesting that he's riding winners for the Mactoum family again, albeit not in the Godolphin Blue. But he knew you had to be on the speed as well. She was quite good, that filly Raffle Prize, I thought, giving away a penalty.
Yeah.
Got the smartest, smoothest, best ride on the day.
Yeah, no, it was. She was very good, and I know. I absolutely concur with all you said about the July course. I think the Rowley Mile course is also, it's also speed favouring. Maybe not as much as the July course, and especially with Raffle Prize and with Voracious later on. Like Oisin Murphy give Voracious the same ride that Frankie Dettori gave Raffle Prize, on the rail, out in front, stacking them up and kicked, and it didn't matter about stacking them up. Both fillies had the pace to go and win it. And yeah, look, Raffle Pride, she maybe didn't get the credit that she should have got for Royal Ascot. Like that's easy to say in hindsight, but she was a game winner of a Queen Mary, and then stepping up and trip by a furlong, and giving away £3. It was a decent performance, I thought.
Yeah, I think the fact that she got such a good ride. My dog's come to say hello. Incidentally, every time your dog barks, Don, my daughter's convinced he's got a friend over. I think in particular, actually, with Voracious, the ride she got, they're talking about Sussex Stakes next. She ran well in the Nassau last year. And Sir Michael Stoute came into this season thinking, what trip is she going to be seen to best effect over? And they probably answered that now with the fact that was her career best and she's won her Group 1. She tried to win 3 Group 1s last year. She didn't look good enough. But I still have that bit of a hangover here that she did get the best ride and one that really suited her on the day. If she goes to the Sussex, they'll probably want to use that early speed and go forward again. But I'd be a little bit concerned about her against the Colts in a Group 1 field. I think everything was perfect for her on this day. But in a Sussex, I'm not sure what price she is at this stage. I'm not sure I'd be with her personally.
Yeah, no, it's a big call, isn't it, to shun a Nassau Stakes against fillies and then go and stick to him because you want to stick to a mile. And obviously Sir Michael Stoute has decided that, and Shively Park have decided that a mile is her trip, and that may be so. But yeah, I thought I Can Fly was not favoured by either the ground maybe or the way the race was run or maybe the track. Like she's a she was in behind it, looked for a little while as if she might not get a gap. Then she got her gap when Beshair faded out of it a little bit. And if she'd had just a turn of foot, she could have got there. But I think she's more a kind of a galloper. Maybe a little bit of cut in the ground would be ideal, and definitely a stiffer mile than the mile at Newmarket's July course. So I think I'd keep I Can Fly in mind maybe for when she gets a slightly stronger test of stamina. And Voracious, look, it's a Group 1 win. It's as you said, she had a few goes at it. She's got a Group 1 now, but yeah, I think from a Falmouth Stakes with the run of the race, stepping up to Sussex Stakes, yeah, I think it's a fair step.
I mean, don't get me wrong, if she's the only pace angle in the Sussex, that makes it more interesting. But I think this was perfect. Stoutie's last 2 winners in the race have carried these colours. Not that they laid her out for it as such, but she peaked for this, and he's very good at that. I'd reserve judgment until Goodwood based upon who lines up in that race. I wanted to mention Communique, also Massar. Communique was great. He is rapidly improving still. To think he was winning handicap. He won the London Gold Cup last year, but he was winning handicaps off what looks a very lowly mark now. He's improving with his racing. Mark Johnson in the July meeting is ridiculous, just the July course. But again, I think that plays, we know how those horses like to be ridden, and it doesn't half suit them.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like it shouldn't be a surprise that horses who are a track that favours pace and ridden aggressively and up with the pace is a track at which Mark Johnson has done well this week. And yeah, look, I agree with you with Communique. Like it was a really good. Like he loves the July course, and that's his style of racing, and Newmarket in general. That's obviously the 2 tracks play to his strengths, but yeah, it's obviously Massar. The jury's out on him again. Although Charlie Appleby was very positive about him afterwards, wasn't
he? Yeah. It's really hard to be positive about a Derby winner who won the key trial for the Guineas and then ran really well in the Guineas, who then comes back from injury. And it's fantastic that Sheikh Mohammed and everyone involved has brought the horse back because it would have been very easy, and the flat scene gets a lot of criticism for when you win a big race for their stallion career is so important, you just put them away. I would have done. I'd have taken that stud fee money, happy.
When you own the Derby winner, Tom, you can put him away straight away afterwards and say, sorry about that.
I'd say, sorry, he's going to go and have a nice life 4 times a day. Thank you very much. However, it's great that they didn't do that, and they still can. But it's difficult to be positive about him, because things didn't work out at Ascot given the start, and he clearly is yet to show that form again, which just shows how difficult it is to come back from injury.
Yeah,
it's because we'd love him to now be 2 from 2, having had that injury and won the Derby, and be 2 from 2 coming here. But he's not, because he doesn't look to be quite the same horse.
No, he doesn't. And you can allow him the Ascot run because of the stumble at the start, and it's his first run since the Derby and all of that. But he was very strong in the market beforehand. And Charlie Appleby did say, I think he was talking to Liddy as well in Racing TV, that he was very positive about the work that he was doing beforehand, and that was reflected in the market. He was a very short price for a horse who hadn't run, had disappointed on his run back after the Derby, for all that there were excuses. And yeah, and he had every chance. The race was run to suit. There was nothing in the race that you could have pointed to and said that wasn't in his favour. He just wasn't good enough. And yeah, it's definitely back to the drawing board with him. Mirage Dancer, I thought he would go and win it when Massar started to drop back. I thought it was Mirage Dancer's race to go and win. He just couldn't get past Communique. As tough as any Mark Johnson horse is.
Yeah, as you say, he loves that style of racing, and he loves it there as well. The last race from the July Festival, I think, to talk about was a Mark Johnson disappointment, I suppose. But I love Charlie Johnson straight after the race saying, and he made no bones about it beforehand, saying it was dad against son with regard to where they ran. He felt they should stick to the course and distance of his earlier win, which is why he ran in the July Stakes and not the superlative over 7. But with hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, it looks as though maybe 7 would have suited him, and on pedigree and on size and physicality, stepping up in trip is clearly going to suit. But he'd run such a good time, a quicker time than any previous July Stakes ever in winning his debut there, that I can see why they stuck to that trip. But I do like that winner, that Royal Lytham, the son of Glen Eagles. You can never write off an Aidan O'Brien 2-year-old anywhere, I know, but I was quite taken with him, and I'm excited about all these Glen Eagles this season.
Yeah, it was a really good performance by him, coming on from the Coventry Stakes and over the same trip, and yeah, staying on really well under Wayne Norden. Wayne Norden's having a remarkable season as well. And Platinum Star, I thought, ran very well to finish as close as he did. He was kind of towards the middle of the track. He was just a tiny bit further back, and he stayed on really well. And between he and Royal Lytham, and they went to the line together, the three of them. For Visionary, if he hadn't been so good on his first run, you wouldn't have been disappointed with this run, because he still ran a big race. Okay, not as big as was expected by the market and by everybody really beforehand.
The point they made out, it's so different. Charlie Johnson said afterwards, I know on times, yes, he was right to be favourite, and he ran such a good time on his first race there. But it is so different when you come up against better horses, not just at the end of the race, but where they are in and around you and what they're doing early on in a race of that quality as well. He just sort of wasn't allowed to do things in his own way as he was on debut. And I think he was well positioned on his debut, where he raced near the rail, I know, and he was a bit wider here initially. I don't think that helped necessarily. But these are better horses, and I still think there's every chance he can be winning a Group 1 race towards the latter end of the season. It might just be that he goes up in trip and they might see him as a Dewhurst horse. But having said that, the winner, who was keeping on in the Coventry, he's definitely going to want further. I mean, I almost was surprised initially they stuck to 6, because he just looks as though he's going to be all over further.
Yeah, exactly. He was so strong, and the three of them pulled clear of Gilsman, who finished third, not beaten far in the Coventry Stakes. So, and obviously Royal Lytham reversed form with Gilsman on the Coventry running. So, yeah, look, and he may have gone a wee bit under the radar, the winner, because a lot of the talk both beforehand and maybe a little bit afterwards was about Visionary. So yeah, and that was just his third run, so he can stepping up and trip. And they're talking about isn't it the Vintage Stakes at Goodwood that Visionary might go to now, and Royal Lytham could go there as well. So they could meet again there. Both
very good record in. I wonder if this now means that, obviously because he's a Coventry winner, but now that stable companions frank the form, we're going to be Arizona mad, aren't we, for the rest of the year?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he was a very impressive Coventry winner. He won it like a horse who would get further as well. So yeah, but
they're all going to get further, Donn.
They're all going to get some furlongs, yeah. But the 7 furlong races, you've got the National Stakes here, the Vincent O'Brien National Stakes, and the Dewhurst at Newmarket. You've got the Middle Park over 6, so it's a case of splitting them up now. And you've got the Phoenix Stakes over 6 as well here. So and then Prix Jean-Luc Lagardère later on in the season, all Group 1 races. So they're all, it's a case of now figuring out, especially for Ballydoyle, getting their teams and figuring out which ones are going to stick to 6. 2-year-old colts are going to stick to 6, and which might get 7 or might even improve for stepping up to 7. So yeah, it's fairly fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, I think ultimately Royal Lytham's going to be a stronger stayer than Arizona, who's a no-nay never, and may well get a mile, but he is ultimately a better colt, it would seem, at this stage, and based on what we saw at Ascot. That's it, I think, Donn. Anything else you wanted to throw in from Newmarket that we've omitted? Feel free.
No, I think we've covered all of that. I think that's pretty much a wrap.
I am happy. It was great. It was a great few days. I know you're off to see Galway and do a bit of Galway filming, because we've got the great double that comes up in a few weeks, the 2 Gs, Galway and Goodwood. So I'm going to turn my attention to Goodwood, and you can get stuck in a Galway.
Right, it's a deal.
Which is going to be fantastic. And looking forward to all of that. So enjoy that this week, Donn. Thank you very much indeed. We will chat again soon. Cheers, Donn. Similar sort of time next week. We will be, of course, looking ahead to the weekend with the Matchbook Racing podcast. That's going to be coming your way on Friday. So look forward to that. For now, for our Matchbook Racing review. Bye-bye.